Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is LolaAjisafe here. We are discussing episode 8, Ready to Love. Before we get into the recap, first and foremost, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Please don't forget to hit the like button. More importantly, I love to hear what you think. This is episode 8. We're going towards the end of the season. What you think so far? I mean, it's probably, it's not been riveting. But at least just your comments. And what I'm trying to do, of course, is liken some of these situations to possible situations in real life, so we can kind of get something from it, as opposed to just watching people just perambulate across the television screen. And then last but not least, if you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. All right, getting into it. So we start this week off Ladies Lounge, which means that we're going to be eliminating one of the guys at the end of the episode today. I don't remember what the numbers are. We can get into it later. So first thing first, we open up into the Ladies Lounge. And of course, those of us who've been watching almost pretty much from season 1 know we've gotten to the point where it's called what? What is it? Introduction to the exes. So nephew Uncle Tommy mentioned something about, you have to take a look at the past in order to take a great step forward, aka learn from your prior relationship mistakes. I mean, what can we say about that? I think if you are truly trying to be on an intentional journey, you definitely, what they say about history. If you don't really learn from history, history will repeat itself. And so with life, if you haven't learned certain lessons as you maneuver and go through each stage, the lessons get repeated. And what happens is that these lessons that get repeated to you, if they repeat and repeat and repeat, the same lesson is wrapped up. Have you ever done those kind of those little tests where if you get one question wrong, they're going to hit you with questions more on that topic that you got wrong? They're not going to let you slide. Same thing with, at least this is my belief, same thing with life. Like if you don't learn a particular lesson, you're going to keep getting that lesson, but it's the same lesson wrapped up in a different ribbon, and probably a more costly loss if you get it wrong or if you don't learn that lesson. So I think the prayer for all of us is to learn from, if you're going through something, or if you've gone through something, easier said than done. But if you can sit down and ask yourself, what am I learning from this? What did I learn from this? You're better off doing it that way than, crying over spilt milk. I'm not saying you can't mourn. I'm not saying you can't cry. I'm not saying you can't sit down and take a minute. But I think that the better perspective, once you've given yourself that minute to recover, is, what did I learn from this? What do I need to learn from this? Because if you don't do that, the lesson's coming again. And then every time it repeats itself, it's a more expensive price. Because you can imagine, liken it to college. You go through college, the first year, second year, third year. If you're not done in 4 years, the tuition goes up 1, 2, inflation. So you're losing more money if you continue taking the same lessons. So if you end up spending 6 years for a 4-year course, not only have you lost 2 years of your time, but you've lost substantial amount of money that you could have saved or put somewhere else. Same thing with life lessons. Now, of course, we understand the process here. The introduction to the ex. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be an ex in chronological order. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an ex you just broke up with, because we've seen in past seasons that they might bring an ex from 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I've got one of my favorite ladies. She brought her ex, who was now married, but they had dated very briefly 10 plus years ago. So the wisdom here is, you want to bring someone that's not going to sabotage you. You want to bring someone who understands the assignment. Someone who's going to be, 1, is going to help you weed out the nonsense, and 2, is not going to, put you in an unsavory light, because it's a two-edged sword. 1, your person's meant to be, feeling them out. But also the contestant, the guy, is meant to also kind of get some information as well. So if you carelessly pick someone who comes to set you up, then what can I say? I don't know why this comes to my mind, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I remember this was 2 or 3 seasons ago. Naeem, his ex, the woman. It turned out that when we looked at the dynamic between them, we're like, are they done yet? Same difference. So it's like this can show you how cunning or calculating you can be, or how well you understand the game. Bringing the ex is not just a careless decision. It has to be well played and well calculated, or they can just throw you off. So right at the end of this discussion, when nephew Tommy tells me, okay, it's introduction to the ex, Jeffrey says, oh, you know what, nephew Tommy, I need to speak with you. Now, before I get into it, just as an aside, I wonder why, or maybe they had discussed this, but Jeffree, knowing what she's going to disclose to Tommy, I wonder, if this did not dissuade her from doing it, but probably didn't. But let's go into it. So Jeffree says that she's had 2 major relationships. One was from high school, 13 year. I think maybe she had 1 or 2 kids with this individual, and then someone about 3-4 years ago, she had another kid with him. Long and short of this, what she's trying to disclose to Uncle Nephew Tommy is that neither of these men are in the lives of her children, which means she's incommunicado with both men and does not think that will be she won't look for them just for this flimsy reason. Of course, like I said, you have to be thinking, you have to have your number 6 thinking, tick, tick, tick. Like, even if she could get in contact with them, are these the kind of people she wants to represent her? No. So definitely she wouldn't pick them. And I guess in between that, she said she's gone on, a couple dates, but nothing serious. Boom, you don't ever want to bring that either. Now, the question here right now, and Jeffree is one of my girls, the question now is, she's got 2 people literally kind of back to back. There's space between them back to back, and both of them are not in the lives of their children. Is this a pattern that needs to be teased out? I don't know if they do stuff behind the scenes, but this would be a situation where she should be sitting in front of a therapist, if she hasn't already, teasing out, okay, what did I do? Because in every issue that occurs in our lives, we're not victims of these matters. We are participants. Whether it's a silent agreement, say, I'm going to let you do this without protesting, or even actively participating into something that leads to your downfall. So not to criticize her, but the question now is, what kind of energy is she giving off? What kind of vibe is she occupying to attract 2 men with similar end results? There's something there. At this point, I'm not a therapist. I'm not quite experienced in matters of the heart or therapy, but there's no such thing as a coincidence. Both of them had, the stories sounded different but similar at the same time. One, I guess, time ran out, and then I guess he didn't feel it serious to remain a father to his children, and the other one was, she was pregnant and it was too much for him to handle. So one could sit down and tease that out. I'm not a therapist, we're not about to therapize her right now, but I really think this is a point where either the show or her would sit down and say, okay, we need to work this out so we don't keep repeating lessons. Because has she learned from those 2 experiences in order not to make a 3rd mistake like that? Or she's still just feeling like she's healed, but she's not totally healed? Because a lot of the stuff that happens to us, and I don't want to use this overused word of trauma, but different experiences that happen to us mold us into who we are. When we come into contact with partners, they're partners that intentionally trigger us, and it's going to be one of 2 things. When you get triggered to grow, or just get triggered to fly off the handle, but you don't get to heal. I feel like as partners, when we come into the lives of a fellow partner, part of our role in that partner's life is to help them heal. Now, how do you heal? You have to unearth it first. So there's some deep-seated issues that you may not be aware of that your partner may trigger. Now, if you're both mature and in a great space and ready for growth, you can tease it out, work on it, dismantle it, and be done with it and be healed from it. Or you can bury it. I'm a barrier. Bury it and pretend it's not there, but it's gonna come up. So that's the thing where I'm like, okay, I hope this lady's had some therapy, because the children sound, young, and she definitely seems like a nice lady. And I think in order for her to get into a healthy relationship, she definitely needs to have delved into that matter substantially and teased it out and healed from it to attract the right person for her. All right, so first, meet the ex of the episode. It's Junior, which is I believe he is Morgan's ex, meets up with Tony and Lyndon. Great question. Funny thing is, I don't know if I've used this question, but I'm going to use it now. He very simple, yet tells you more than it tells you enough. Question they asked was, what do you like about her? So I believe Lyndon came in first, and he's like, oh, I like everything about her. That's refusing to delve in deep, or to open up, or to tell the truth. I like everything about her is not a good enough answer if I'm asking that question, because you know, and then of course, my man, you know, Tony, who we know has the gift of gab, he launches into different things, but of course, the outer packaging, but she's this, she's that. He gets it right. And then they start talking, and like I said, so now we have Junior, who Morgan says was not necessarily a deep, committed relationship. I don't remember what it was. That's what she. No, I do believe Junior said that she had requested. That's what she wanted. Now, herein lies the point. Did she request for a casual relationship because she feared that she couldn't have a serious relationship with him because of his lack of commitment? Or is that what she truly wanted? And I asked this question as we lead into the next point in when they talked about the Nair incident. Nair, which we all know is hair remover. Apparently, he says he went to bed one night, woke up with no hair in his head. She says she applied the Nair into his scalp because he had lied to her about some scenario, whatever the case may be. I think that for all of us, yeah, that's an overreaction. I feel if somebody offends you, crosses the line, blows through your boundaries, if they're aware of the boundaries you had created, because sometimes we have boundaries but we don't articulate them, and they probably didn't have great communication, is it an appropriate response to put hair remover on his head? Now, you know, this was a long time ago. I don't know, I'm assuming it was a while ago, so I'm not here to judge her for how she is today, but is that an appropriate response? No, not really. Like, if someone doesn't respect you enough to respect your boundaries, then they shouldn't be given the privilege of your presence. So an appropriate adult response might have been just removing him from her space. But I guess you wanted to get a pound of flesh, you know, vengeance is mine. I think we can all understand that sometimes when you just want to get your pound of flesh, like you want to hit where it hurts because you're hurting. So she removed his hair. Now, is that a red flag? Does that tell us I mean, I would say you'd put it on you would have it sitting on the table to look out for it, and you would, you know, delve into it more to figure out, is this going to manifest into a current relationship now? Is she better able to articulate herself and establish boundaries? And I do remember talking about her in prior episodes where I said she seemed to be saying certain things to Tony in a joking manner, but she was establishing her boundaries. And I wonder if her style of establishing boundaries quite quickly is because of her past experience with this guy Junior, because she maybe in the past she felt she didn't have a voice, so now she doesn't waste time. Because I know some people have criticized her that she's doing too much, that she just met him, she doesn't know him, why she's trying to tell him. But on the other hand, I felt like she was telling him like, yo, this is where I don't want you to cross up front, so there's no room for misunderstanding or miscommunication. And I was like, the way she put it, she wasn't aggressive, she wasn't rude, she wasn't rolling her neck around, but she made it known that this is what she required, this is what she expected, and this is what she definitely didn't want to be seeing in her interaction with him, and this is what she felt would make her feel safe. I thought it was fine, and I now wonder if is it because this happened in the past that now helped her to build this. Because like I said from the top, I was saying that, you know, when you go through certain things, events, circumstances, you really have to acknowledge what lessons you learned. Because when you acknowledge what lessons you learned, you put some armor, some machinery, some stuff, firepower in place to prevent you from falling back into that or getting tied up into that kind of mess again. So I wonder if this is one of the things that led her to be the way she is today. But that's left to be seen. I don't know. So, you know, after when Tony hears about this, now the question now is, Tony a little bit nervous. Like he's like taken aback. Now, is he nervous because he said he was nervous because her actions didn't match her words. So she had said that it was a casual relationship, but he was saying, well, if it was a casual relationship, why did she react in such a manner? That's picking at hairs on a blanket. That's not the main issue. So whether she wanted it to be serious or not for a past relationship, for him, shouldn't be his concern. His concern should be, is this something she can do again? Now, I feel like he's not verbalizing the main, you know how somebody doesn't ask the real question, but but they ask another question, try and get an answer to an unasked question. I think that's what his issue is. The ex had said she was a little bit, she had a tad bit crazy in her. Could this crazy come out and affect him? Now, what is Tony really afraid of? So we know Tony Tiger is mad about town. Has he completely sowed his wild oats? Or is this something that he could possibly trigger in her again because he's not completely ready to settle down and be a monogamous man? Is that what he is? Is he really serious about that? And if he's not really serious about that, is he now afraid of how she might react to him if she find out he's not going according to plan? I feel that's more his fear that he's not articulating, more than whether her actions and her words meet up. Yeah, that would be a bigger fear. Like if he's not, towing the line, is he going to get a similar treatment? I think that would be, and in all of that, it's Morgan's reading that he's not happy with this. He's unhappy about something based on his facial expressions, and she's already, kind of veering towards her backup. Because we said it we've been saying it. I do believe Lyndon's a backup, but he's a backup for a reason. If the front runner is not playing well or playing right, then she's leaning on her backup. All right, so the next date. This was eyes to behold. So Cynthia, my girl Cynthia, and her ex James looks like a really unassuming, peaceful. He doesn't look menacing at all. It looks, it's got locks well done. Just, I guess, get them freshly done for the filming. So Cynthia and James meet up with Andre and Anthony, NP, nurse practitioner. Yo, I don't remember seeing anything quite like this. But like I said, James initially appeared quite, unassuming and just real laid back. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not the case. He came here to play. I wouldn't say he came here to fight, but he came here to play. He came here to poke the bear. Now, I don't know if he came here to poke the bear for the benefit of Cynthia or against Cynthia. So, in other words, I'm asking now, was he acting the way he did because he was an ex who has, or was he a ex, aka a well-adjusted co-parent trying to, vet a viable partner for his ex, or was he just playing the role of a jealous ex? That's left to be seen. But here, like, James did not come here. I was going to say James did not come here to play, but it looked like James came here to play. Like he put on, I don't know if he don't look like a big guy, but I didn't see him stand up. But he got a little presence with him, like he's intimidating. So he sees Andre walking, he's like, oh Lord, like this dude coming in with a shag. That was just the beginning. And Cynthia, her ex, she's like, I saw her head go down. She's like, oh Lord. So the question now is, did she pick this ex because they're good like that? Because in all in all, he didn't spit out anything against Cynthia, but he came for those guys to rattle their cages to see how they responded. I think it gave us a good read. Like y'all can say what you want, but Andre couldn't take the heat, or maybe Andre didn't want to get into a confrontation with the gentleman. But he came for Andre clean. Like he's asking Andre, how do you feel about her? Have you had? I don't know how relevant the questions were, but I think how I say that too. Sometimes I say it's not, when I ask you a question, it's not the answer you give me, but how you answer my question that tells me everything I need to know. So his questions at the time didn't necessarily appear big and important, but everything that was happening in response to those questions told us a lot. So I was asking some trivial questions about your exes, your flings, your this, your that to Andre. But in the tone and the way he was asking, like he really had Andre rattled, and it got to a point where Andre was talking about, yeah, I've been on Forbes, I've been on this and that. And he's like, I asked you about your qualification and I asked you for your resume. I said, James was not playing with Andre at all. Like, I think men read themselves pretty well. I really feel like he left Andre holding short end of the stick, just based on the fact that Andre was not able to properly keep his cool. He seemed a little frazzled, I guess, thrown off. Because like I said, when you look at James, he's not threatening at all, unassuming. His voice is not necessarily deep, but he got like this little like, what? Like, you know what? He's got this like New York swag, like, but without the Timbs and the puffy coat. So he was like just in, I think, some shirt, maybe a waistcoat. So he didn't have all the decorations of the New York swag, but his attitude was he was on 10. So I think maybe that threw Andre off. I don't know, but like he gave Andre all the smoke. And I was here for it. I'm sorry. Like it was just interesting. It made great TV. I don't know if Cynthia thought that far that this would be great TV, but it made great TV. Now I don't know if it would be as fun if James was a big burly guy, it might look like an unfair fight, but James did not look menacing at all. But his attitude was, he was like, you know, when you get these little, you see a little chihuahua, you know, chihuahuas can be quite aggressive, and you're almost like tickled, like, well, who are you barking at? Don't let me, I could step on you and hurt you, so just back off. But this, look, James did not let go, but it was fun to see. And I feel like it gave us a little insight. Eventually, Andre couldn't take the heat, got up. So yeah, it's really, the question now is, you know, was James really doing this to protect his kids and a co-parent, or was he just trying to, you know, block? You know, or was he trying to be blocker? I don't know. But y'all tell me in the comments what you think. Was he trying to block, or was he actually trying to weed out and show her? Because men will tell you that they can read each other. Was he trying to weed out and show Cynthia another side? Yeah, don't be fooled by the little shag and the man bun, or want to be a man bun. Look at this. Is this what you want as a partner, particularly if you have children? I don't know. Y'all tell me what you think. Of course, Anthony had come in by that time. He came for Anthony a little bit, but Anthony, this situation helped Anthony because Anthony's not one to respond anyway. He's got like a real laid back kind of, and then even he gave a really cool. Anthony looked like he redeemed himself. Kind of redeemed himself this episode, because although all the things against Anthony have been hearsay, what the ladies have been hinting at, so I don't know what the proof is when they're saying like, oh, he wants to be chased. But this this episode, or maybe you hear that he wants to be chased from the woman he's not necessarily completely into. I do believe he and Cynthia had a great, nice little interaction and connect. So so when he says he's about to leave, and you know, James is like, well, don't leave, you know, 5 more minutes. He's like, yo, I'm not going anywhere. Cynthia, if you can, give me my number, but I have to go now. Like, it was he took control of the situation. He easily, but swiftly, yet calmly put James in his place. And James respected that, because he said, I kind of like that guy. Without losing his cool or feeling the need to prove himself. There's a point where Andre, I don't know if it was editing, but it looked like Andre was trying to prove himself. Up himself, not based on his presence, but up himself on his resume. Which means that, is that how he sees himself? But yeah, it was just you wouldn't have thought that until you saw that. But yeah, Anthony, Mr. Cool, laid back, really redeemed himself against the pressure. He literally sidestepped the pressure and came in and made his presence known. And of course, that was the front runner for James as well. Alright, so quickly they show us Jeffrey meeting up with Blue and Mark Anthony. I yet don't know why Andre wasn't able to sit down, and wasn't all 3 of them. Maybe because Andre was busy, couldn't make the filming appointment, or maybe because producers thought it might be a great idea to meet him up another. I'm not sure why he didn't sit down with all 3 of them, but it was 2 of them. She kind of broke it down, and I would say, as a gentleman in that, I'm not a gentleman, but I'm saying if I was one of the gentlemen in that position, it's like, on one hand, you can appreciate her honesty. Well, she didn't have a choice, so I can't even say you can appreciate her honesty, because she didn't have a choice. Those were what she's doing exactly what she was asked to do. So you might appreciate that she won't have any kind of crazy, you know, baby father antics. But on the other hand, then you ask yourself, why is that? What has occurred in her past that she don't have anybody that she's good with, that she's dated in the past? So this is something not to sweep under the rug, but just to put right here and tease out a little bit more. Like, you sit down, this is where you start asking questions, really delving into, and maybe not on camera, but in real life, this is where you really start asking the real questions. What transpired? How did it work? How does she feel? What's going, like, because you want to see, like, is this something that might bleed into your relationship with her? Or is this just so happened that before she healed, she met 2 similar type of energies? So yeah, I wouldn't say this is like, you know, dismissing papers, but this is definitely a red flag that can be teased out and worked on to see if, okay, we can do this, or we need to take a minute. You need a second to heal, to figure out why this happened. And then Mercedes and her ex Armand, I think is his name, meets up with Anthony and Mark Anthony. It was something interesting that Armand said here when he was concluding on the date. He said something about how even though Mark Anthony appeared to be confident, he appeared to be, he saw it as a forced confidence. So his representative appeared to be confident but wasn't confident. So what is that forced confidence masking? And can that now manifest negatively in a relationship, with a serious relationship with this guy? That's left to be seen. But he was like Anthony once again, like Anthony coming out swinging out the park. He's got this quiet, laid back confidence. He knows who he is, he knows where he's going, and he knows what he wants. So when he says let's go, like he means let's go all the way. And I think for a woman, that's what you want in a man. You don't want anybody who's wishy-washy, not sure about what they want or who they are. Like, you're not sure, head back to kindergarten until you know. So you definitely want that kind of confidence and self-assuredness in a man. Like, he needs to know where he's going, where he came from. He needs to know his story. Yeah, those are the expectations. I'm sorry. Like, if you're going to lead, yeah, you need to know who you are to lead. And I need to be able to see that, to see if that's the kind of, you know, that's the kind of person I'm going to respect to lead. But yeah, he like, and also he's not forceful in his confidence. Nice. So once again, you know, Anthony NP come out like real, he comes out pretty good. Marcia and Marcia's ex Mark meets up with Blue and Tony Tiger. Now, I've said already, we know Tony Tiger has gift of gab, so he talks about blah blah blah, and we know in the past he already told Marcia that yo, she number 2. So you know what, I don't know if her ex hadn't warned him, so the ex is now saying, you know, asking about the ranking. So there's a conversation with Tony. I don't know what Tony said, but when he's talking with Blue, I like the way Blue put this, and I'm not sure why people had an issue with this. There must be other things I had an issue with, because this is as honest as it gets for me at this point. Maybe Blue's process is too slow for filming or for this type of format for TV nonsense. But Blue, nobody said it like this, but Blue said that look, he has 2 people in number 2 position. He hasn't put somebody in number 1 position yet. Whether it is true or not, I think that's an appropriate answer, because he's saying I've done all the groundwork, all the work that needs to be done to assign someone that 1, as opposed to saying you have somebody in 1 and then 1 switches with 2. That means you really don't know. You weren't honest with yourself to begin with, that you didn't know everything you needed to know. But I love it where he said you're both, you have 2 runners up, and then once I tease out more, then I'm going to put 1 in the number 1 position. I thought that was a great way to put it, and I think people in the future should be saying that, because it makes perfect sense to me. But for some reason, everybody had a problem with it, including Tony Tiger. Tony Tiger, like, you just hating on game right now. Tony Tiger was hating on game because he's like, no, you need to pick 1. No, Tony, he don't need to pick 1. He don't. Mind your business. Just because you pick 1, like, that's on you, sir. But anyway, apparently, even with that, Mark at the end of the day, when he was talking about Marcia, didn't have a clear winner. He was saying how he thought that Tony Tiger might be a little too aggressive, not necessarily in a bad way, but not enough to be sensitive enough for her, which is what her ex thought she might need. And then of course with Blue, he wasn't sure if Blue was fully engaged. Well, no, he's not, because he don't know you that well, and apparently he doesn't spend a lot of time outside of filming to get to know the ladies. That's what, you know, that's what Marcia said. I don't know what's true or not, but that's what she's saying. And then we have Suan and her ex, I believe Paul, meets up with Anthony NP and Blake. Of course, her ex said that she felt like, you know, Blake came off as slick and smooth, like a used car salesman, and Anthony just had a cool, calm energy, and he preferred that for her. Of course, you know, the heart wants what it wants. So Suan's not really checking for her ex's opinion anyway. She won't Blake. We can tell. Thank you.
Hi, viewers. No, sorry.
Close my door, please.
Love you.
Final dates of the episode. Andre meets with Jeffrey, supposedly for Jeffrey to kind of tell him why he's not meeting with an ex. They had some cute little date. He made some Caribbean food for her, apparently. I don't know, some chicken with plantains or something with some rice. His apartment looked kind of nice. They looked at the waterfront. All I recollect from this was, like, he started kissing her with his eyes open. I don't know what it means, and y'all probably need to check for me, but yo, somebody, like, her eye was closed, but his eyes were open. I don't know when he turned, he said maybe his eyes closed then. But like, yo, don't they say that you have serial killer vibes if you kiss him with your eyes open? I don't know, but that's all I could get. There's going into ladies lounge, so we do go through the elimination thing process. We kind of recap what I've recapped, and then there's a line that Jeffrey says that I think we all need to adopt if we're talking about, just self-love, like knowing our worth. When she was kind of delving through the guys, she's like, you know what? That Mark Anthony deserves a me. So I feel like she just looked at herself as a prize. So she's like, yeah, he's cool. He deserves he might deserve to have me, but let's see how this goes. And we'll go into elimination. Of course, we have it looks like the two women that Blue was clocking, Marcia and Jeffrey, have said that he slid down to the, whether it's a number 2 or number 3 spot, or the bottom. Let's just call it, Blue has slid down to the bottom spot. So alas, the sleeping agent, the sleeper agent is no longer sleeping. They've discovered him, and they're trying to eliminate him apparently. So the bottom 2 are Blake and Blue. Blue, I don't know if he's been in the bottom 2 before, but this week he's in the bottom 2. And you can already tell if the 2 people who are interested in him have slid him to the bottom position. Then, and of course with Blake's, up position with, because yeah, Blue has more connections than Blake, but Blake gets to stay. So with the fact that Blake has, some underworld ties with some of the producers, so he's not going. So what Blue goes home. And here we are now at the end of episode 8. Guys, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Lola, over and out.